Hello everyone and welcome to episode 25, the penultimate episode of my Orc Shaman level 1 through 60 Let's Play series. For today I'm wanting to do two big things and talk about two big things as we go through this episode, where basically I want to explore some of the highest level areas of Kalimdor, and by some of the highest level areas I mean the two in-game level 60 zones in Kalimdor, where they're like level 55 to level 60. There's no like full-on like only level 60 zone in this game, where I am wanting to begin our adventures in northern Kalimdor, where I'm currently flying through Ashen Vale, which we explored a long time ago, and I'm going to go ahead and go into Fellwood, which we explored 2 episodes ago, and I'm going to be taking the journey to Timber Mall Hold, the tunnels held by the Furbolgs, and I will go ahead and explore Moonglade really quickly, which I didn't really mention at the start, and then I will go ahead and explore Winterspring. And I want to spend a lot of time here in Winterspring and talk about one of the 2 final raids that I have not yet talked about at all on my channel, and then I want to go ahead and head to the opposite end of Kalimdor, and I want to return to the Ungor Crater and enter Silithus, where I want to go ahead and do a bunch of things in this map, and then continue talking about the other of the last 2 raids that I've not yet talked about on my channel. So hopefully this will be fun as we explore some of the final parts of Kalimdor and as we begin to explore the final aspects of this Let's Play series. As I mentioned, this is the penultimate episode, so next episode is going to be the final episode of this Let's Play series. But as we have landed in Fellwood, I can go ahead and begin heading north towards Winterspring, which I guess I'll just cut to that now. Or actually, we're only like halfway there. And there is a vengeful wisp right there, which I think in Cataclysm this is the Illidan area. Okay, now I think is a good time to cut to where we have journeyed all the way to the northern ends of Fellwood, and up here as we continue progressing up Mount Hyjal, we can go ahead and enter Timber Mall Hold, which Timber Mall Hold is a very cool area that I like a lot. And the Timber Mall Furbolgs are just a faction in World of Warcraft that I just really enjoy a lot, and I was super excited with Classic coming out because I could do reputation with them, and of course it is always fun to work towards their reputation, where in the Season of Discovery they actually got overhauled a little bit, where there's a decent amount of things that you can buy from the reputation quartermaster, which is actually decently important, where currently we are unfriendly with the Timber Mall Furbolgs, which means they won't attack us on sight. They're not hostile towards us, but they aren't really big fans of us, so we can't really talk to them and we can't buy things from them, but we can run through Timber Mall Hold without being swarmed by them, which is a good thing for us. Where I'm going to go ahead and take this tunnel here, where there's another tunnel that we can take to Winterspring, but this tunnel goes to Moonglade, where we can go ahead and explore a couple of things here. Where Moonglade is a zone that I came to in my Human Mage Let's Play series, and also on my Night Elf Druid Let's Play series, where as a Night Elf Druid it is fun to come here because Moonglade is the hub for Druids. So Taurens and Night Elves who are Druids can come here to basically unlock some super powerful abilities that they can use as a druid, and by super powerful abilities I mean a couple of the shapeshift forms, and it's also just a nice place to come to train if you're a druid, and there's like merchants here and whatnot, and it's probably like the only real big example of a class hub in vanilla World of Warcraft. But as we exit Timber Mall Hold here, we can enter Moonglade, and it is beautiful, where it is very similar to like Ashen Vale, and it would be similar to Fellwood if Fellwood wasn't corrupted. But we can go ahead and come down right here, where I actually already have the flight path unlocked here, which is kind of interesting, and I noticed that a little while ago and I'm not sure exactly why, but I have it unlocked, which is cool. but we can go ahead and continue this way, where we see on our map we can go this way to the Stormrage Burrow Dens, and there's Lake Ahlun-Arah right here, and we're going to pass by the Shrine of Remulos. But we have the main town of Nighthaven, where I do have a quest to turn in and a quest to pick up that is going to take us to Silithus. So I think it's good to pick that up since I'm planning on heading there in a little bit. And we have a very cool looking ancient there. And we have Keeper Remulos, a son of Cenarius, which is cool. And of course, we see that there are some Moonglade Wardens here, which are Night Elves, a part of the Sonoran Circle, which we were helping the Sonoran Circle out in Fellwood, and the Sonoran Circle is primarily made up of Night Elves and Taurens. But coming this way, we can see Nighthaven here, where it's actually kind of annoying in vanilla World of Warcraft because as we run into the building, or maybe not actually, oh there we go, we get dismounted, and then when we get to this side we're going to get dismounted again. But I might just go ahead and go into Ghost Wolf so we can go ahead and just speed things along. And I want to go ahead and get to this building over here, which this is like the primary building, and of course druids unlock a special like teleport ability which will teleport them to that building, and then they can run down here. And over there we can see right there is some special flight masters that free of charge will take Tauren druids and Night Elf druids to Thunderbluff and to Darnassus respectively, which is very nice for them. But let's go ahead and run into here where we can chat with this cool looking Night Elf, and we can go ahead and turn in this quest, gain a little bit of experience, and then pick up the quest to go to Silithus, which we have this letter right here that we can read if you want, and I'll just leave it there for you to pause for 3 more seconds, and then I'm going to close it. And let's go ahead and swim into the lake here, and I'm just going to swim back to the other side, where I guess I could actually use my water walking so we can get by a little bit faster. And I'm pretty sure mounts are still broken, but does Ghost Wolf work? No, it does not. Okay. But as we get back to the mountains on the southern end of Moonglade, we can go ahead and re-enter Timbermaw Hold, and let's continue our journey towards Winterspring, where I do have quite a few quests to turn in, where I have some related to Timbermaw Hold and some that I picked up in Ahn'Qiraj Crater. And I also have a variety of quests that I can do, especially related to the owl beasts that I may or may not do as we progress through Winterspring. And then I can go ahead and make my way towards Everlook, which is going to be our main hub for the first half of this episode. But as we turn this corner, we can see Winterspring in front of us, where there are some players fighting at the Winterfall runners right here, probably to increase their reputation. But let's go ahead, complete this quest, and pick up this quest to fight a bunch of the Winterfall Furbolgs, where we were fighting the Deadwood Furbolgs and Fellwood, and we're now here in Winterspring, where we have the Winterfall Furbolgs, including Chieftain Winterfall, who is a very strong Furbolg that I fought in my Human Mage Let's Play series. But let's go ahead and come down here where we have Donovan Snowden, so we can turn in our 2 different quests that we picked up from Ahn'Qiraj Crater, where this is just a really beautiful map, and I really enjoy this place a lot because in the vanilla version of World of Warcraft, I believe there are only 2 snowy zones in the game, one of which is Dun Morogh in the Eastern Kingdoms, which is the starting zone for dwarves and gnomes, and then we have a Winterspring, which is basically the exact opposite of Dun Morogh because this is a level 55 to level 60 zone and is on Kalimdor. But we have this individual here, and we can go ahead and turn in these 2 quests, and we can also go ahead and pick these up after we have this little bit of a story event going on, where we have some hot springs in a Winterspring, which is really interesting because we also have the hot springs in Ahn'Qiraj Crater, and there seems to be something strange going on about the hot springs. And she threw the sword into the water, and the sword has improved incredibly. Let's go ahead and chat with her once again, and we can go ahead and pick up this quest to fight some Winterfall Furbolgs. And then we have this quest where we have to go to Fairless, and then I think we have to like drink this potion in order to kill our character after the graveyard in Teneris, I believe, which is a very fun quest in hardcore because in like the older versions of hardcore, it would actually like the quest legitimately kills you, and in hardcore, like if you die, your game is over. But they fixed that in the official servers, I believe. But I think out of all the quests that I currently have, that will probably be the one that I do not do at a bare minimum, where there are just a lot of cool things for us to explore in Winterspring, and we are approaching level 60, which is very, very fun because we are almost at the end of a longer journey in the Season of Discovery, where it's been like, what, 9 months now? I'm not exactly sure, and I have been doing a lot of things on this server. And while playing an Enhancement Shaman hasn't been my favorite experience in World of Warcraft, where I don't think it's a class that I particularly enjoyed too much, though I may take a moment to try it out in retail just to see how it is in the modern version of the game, I still enjoyed playing it as an experience, and I have definitely enjoyed playing an Orc Shaman in this Let's Play series and exploring a bunch of the different Horde quest lines that we can do throughout the world of Azeroth, and just viewing the world from the perspective of a Horde character and kind of just appreciating all the little details that you can find across Horde towns and cities and whatnot, and it's just been a lot of fun. And as I turn this corner, we can see right here Everlook, where we have a goblin right there at the sign. But here we have the entrance with an Arctic riding wolf and a couple of other mounts right there. But let's go ahead and come speak with Yurgrik, the Wind Rider Master, where we can go ahead and unlock this flight path, which I believe there's only one flight path left in Kalimdor for us to get down in Silithus, which we'll get a little later on. And I don't think I'm missing something, where I know I prematurely said it in the Eastern Kingdoms, and then I eventually finally got it last episode with Lightsworn Chapel. But I think it's just Silithus left, which is fun. Where Kalimdor is such a big continent with so many different types of zones, and it's fun to kind of just like run around the entire continent and explore everything that there is. We're inside of this goblin town, the fourth and final of the goblin towns of the Steamwidow Cartel that we have been to in this series is this one, where there is a member of the Thorn Brotherhood here, which is interesting because I don't think he's there in actual vanilla, but I could be wrong. But we also got a couple of quests over here, where these are group quests that I probably won't do, so I'll go ahead and just pick them up just in case I decide to, where you could actually do the Frostmoth shards by yourself. You just have to be a little bit patient. But we also have a couple quests in here that are going to send us to the Plague Lands, so I will probably just do this off camera and go throw them in really quickly. But I have a wide variety of quests here that I can do, and let's go ahead and begin doing that as we level up our character towards level 60, and let's go ahead and chat about Ahn'Qiraj. Whereas we explore Ahn'Qiraj, I actually want to do something a little different compared to how I've done it so far in this Let's Play series, where I don't really want to deep dive into each boss, and you can watch me fight each of the bosses in the corner of your screen right now, but I want to go ahead and talk more about the lore of this location of the world, and then I will briefly talk about two specific bosses that I want to talk about. But I will have links to the wiki page down in the description if you want to read more into the lore of this place, and then you can find the pages for each of these bosses if you want to read like their individual biographies, where there isn't really too much to say about most of the bosses, and some of them kind of just have like some fun details related to the war, the Shifting Sands from a long time ago, and then a couple of them are pretty important. Ahn'Qiraj, or the Qiraji Empire, is the city kingdom of the Qiraji found in the southern parts of Silithus. It was originally a Titan research station which housed the old god Cthulhu before being commandeered by the Ahn'Qir, who would become the Qiraji, led by the twin emperors Vec-Nalash and Vec-Lor. Following the War of the Shifting Sands, the kingdom was contained from the rest of the world by the Scarab Wall until it was opened again recently. Ahn'Qiraj was constructed by the Titan Forged during the Ordering of Azeroth and watched over the High Keeper Ra, acting as both a city for the Titan Forged and prison for Cthulhu, similar to ODR. The Tovir and Anubis Seth Sentinels were created to maintain Titan lore repositories and Titan machinery surrounding the Titan city of Erdun and Ahn'Qiraj. Eventually, the High Keeper Ra learned of his master's fates and abandoned all hope, secluding himself in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. Thousands of years later, after the Troll Empires divided the insectoid kingdom of the Ahn'Qir that traveled southwest ransacked the Titan city and renamed themselves the Qiraji. The Qiraji spent the next thousands of years within the city of Ahn'Qiraj in hibernation, hiding from the trolls and quietly growing in number. War of the Shifting Sands. In time, the Night Elves, along with their expanding empire, began venturing into the southern lands. Upon delving into the ruined city, the Qiraji were stirred awake, and the War of the Shifting Sands began, raging for several long, agonizing months. The Night Elves were always on the defensive, always outnumbered, and always driven back. The whole of Silithus was soon engulfed by the Silithid and their Qiraji hosts. Out of desperation, the Night Elven leader Fandral Staghelm sought the aid of the elusive Bronze Dragonflight. Their initial refusal to interfere was reversed, and the brazen Qiraji attacked the Caverns of Time, home and province of Nozdormu, the Timeless One. The dragons and Fandral Staghelm ultimately hatched a final, desperate plan to contain the Qiraji within the city of Ahn'Qiraj, erecting a barrier that would confine them until a more hopeful stratagem could be devised. With the blessing of Elune, the barrier was erected before their eyes, rock and stone and roots from beneath the sands emerging to create an impenetrable wall. Even the winged soldiers who attempted to fly over the barrier met with an invisible obstruction that they could not pass. The Qiraji who remained outside the wall were quickly slain. The dragon told Fandral that should any mortal ever wish to pass the magical barrier and access the ancient city, they need only strike the scepter against the gong, and the gates would open. He then entrusted the scepter to the Archdruid. World of Warcraft. The threat posed by the Qiraji has thus remained behind its wall for thousands of years. Recently, however, the unmentionable old god Cthulhu slowly awakened from his slumber beneath Ahn'Qiraj. Behind the gates of the scarab wall, the merciless Qiraji stirred once again. Empowered by the old god, Cthulhu, the Qiraji prepared their legions for a worldwide assault to avenge their bitter defeat at the hands of the Night Elves 1,000 years ago. It was discovered that some of the Qiraji were finding ways past the wall. Anachronos, the bronze dragon, helped the adventurers of Azeroth open the scarab wall to prevent more incursions. After Shiramar rang the gong with the scepter, the ancient gates of Ahn'Qiraj opened, revealing the horrors of a forgotten war. After the gates of Ahn'Qiraj were shattered, the Qiraji poured forth. The combined forces of the Horde and the Alliance, with High Overlord Varrock Sorrowfang as their supreme commander, had to stop the Qiraji before they could overrun Silithus and eventually Kalimdor. The Qiraji General Rajax commanded the opposing forces, and an endless flow of Silithid and corrupted Anubisites flooded Silithus. This battle stretched across all of Kalimdor, with Qiraji resonating crystals summoning the insects. Nonetheless, the might of Kalimdor was victorious. The last of the Qiraji forces were defeated, retreating back to the ancient city fortress of Ahn'Qiraj. The Qiraji resonating crystals littering Kalimdor vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving behind nothing but sundered earth. The adventurers fought the Qiraji and finally reached the Chamber of Cthulhu. After Cthulhu was defeated, his remnants were brought to Kael Ostraz. World of Warcraft, the comic. After the Ahn'Qiraj War, the ogre mage Cho'Gath took shelter within the Chamber of Cthulhu, deep inside the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj. While the Alliance and Horde were focused on defeating the Lich King, Cho'Gath hung the half-breed Medan on the corpse of the old god Cthulhu, where Medan would be tormented by the old god's mad whisperings. As Cho'Gath went about preparing for Cthulhu's resurrection, but the power of the old god monstrously deformed Cho'Gath's body, making their way deep into the ruined temple. Valir Sangrenar and Merrill Winterstorm confronted the increasingly hideous Cho'Gath and managed to recover Medan. It was later revealed that Cho'Gath had planned to sacrifice Medan and use Medan's potent magical power to resurrect Cthulhu. Cho'Gath began performing the rites and channeled a great deal of energy, but Medan was able to contain it within a ward around the ogre. Restoring Atiash, Great Staff of the Guardian, to its rightful state, Medan focused the powers of the Council through it to defeat Cho'Gath, burying him beneath the rubble of Ahn'Qiraj. Cataclysm and Aftermath. During the elemental unrest, it was revealed that some Qiraji, led by Prince Sarsarun, still reside in Ahn'Qiraj, and some worship Cho'Gath. Alliance adventurers led by Varian Wren, or horde led by Cairn Bloodhoof defeated these Qiraji before they could invade Stormwind and Thunderbluff. According to Archmage Khadgar, the Void manages to call out, drawing the swarms of its Black Empire home. With the introduction of flying in Azeroth, the outdoor, uninstanced part of Ahn'Qiraj became a zone named Ahn'Qiraj, the Fallen Kingdom. It consists of a facsimile of the raid instances with no mobs or quests, similar to what was once Zul'Gurub. It currently serves no purpose. Accompanying these changes, the Ahn'Qiraj instances were tweaked to accommodate half of the previous number of players, though the enemies located inside are still level 60. Ahn'Qiraj, the Fallen Kingdom, comprised 2 raid instances in pre-expansion World of Warcraft, the Ruins of Ahn'Qiraj, 20%, and the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, 40%. The gates of Ahn'Qiraj could only be opened by a series of player-driven quests, part of which was the Ahn'Qiraj War Effort. When completed, this triggered a road event, and the gates opened. Once the gates were opened, the spoils of the kingdom would be available for anyone on the server who could rise to the challenge. Although the instance was not activated until 1.9, the Scarab Wall, the gate to Ahn'Qiraj, has been present since early on in the game's release. Prior to World of Warcraft Cataclysm, the area where Ahn'Qiraj is physically located beyond the portal gates was inaccessible, and there was a dead zone on the roadmap south of Silithus. We then have the Ruins of Ahn'Qiraj is a 10-man, 20-man before Cataclysm outdoor raid dungeon located in southern Silithus. Its release was joined by a massive server-dependent event called the Gates of Ahn'Qiraj. It can be found by entering the main Ahn'Qiraj gate and continuing on the left path. Most of the area is mountable, however the bug mounts from the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj do not work here. If any member of your party is in combat, then your entire party is in combat, no matter where they are in the instance. Where inside of the instance we have Kurinax, General Rajax, Mom, Brewer the Gorger, Iamis the Hunter, and Osirian the Unscarred, where there's just a variety of different types of mobs in here, and it's really interesting to see the Qiraji because they're a really interesting group or race of bug-like creatures that some of them are very humanoid and some of them are really weird and some of them are flying around and whatnot, and they're just really interesting models. And I think compared to a lot of the stuff we see nowadays, they definitely look pretty dated, but are just really kind of freaky, I guess, which I think works really well with the idea of Ahn'Qiraj, with this being a raid, and you're coming into this raid and you're experiencing a lot of these very mysterious and very creepy and very interesting enemies that you can fight. And then of course there is a variety of different pieces of lore as you fight different enemies, like how Osirian the Unscarred used to be an Anubiseth, but is now known as a Horiseth, which is basically just a transformed version of Anubiseth, where he was transformed because of his victory against the bronze dragon Grakrond, who you can find his bones out in Silithus, where he killed Grakrond during the War of the Shifting Sands. But after doing a bunch of exploring in Winterspring, I am now level 58 and a half, just over a half, 51% of the way to level 59. So I want to go ahead and head back to southern Kalimdor as I'm flying into Angora Crater. And I also wanted to point out that I actually reached level 300 skinning last episode in the Eastern Plaguelands. And I think I forgot to mention that last episode, so I just wanted to point this out here, where I've skinned enough high-level creatures to get all the way to 300 skinning, which I don't think I maxed out any of my professions on my human mage character, and then of course I didn't do it on any of my hardcore characters, so this is my first maxed out profession in a World of Warcraft Let's Play series. But it's just skinning, it's not super difficult to max it out. Where I'm probably just going to go ahead and sell the rest of the leather I have to try to get some golds to maybe spend some money on a few cool things in the final episode of this series. We'll just have to wait and see how much gold I get from that. But I'm currently flying into Angora Crater because I want to arrive at Marshall's Refuge, because as I have been talking about, I want to go ahead and head into Silithus. And Ahn'Qiraj Crater is a pretty dangerous zone, and I was definitely struggling here a couple of episodes ago, but now that I'm level 58, it just doesn't feel that dangerous anymore. It's relatively safe as long as we don't run into any of the giant devil swords, or if we don't accidentally attack one of the stone guardians around here. But a zone that is going to be more dangerous for us, as it is one of the 2 highest level zones here in Kalimdor, is of course Silithus, which we have journeyed all the way through Kalimdor to get to this point in our adventure, where we started dealing with the Silithid threat in the Barrens, and then we dealt with them in the Thousand Needles and in Fairless, and then we dealt with them a little bit in Tenaris and here in the Ahn'Qiraj Crater, where I kind of just ran past their place at some point, I think. We are now going to head into Silithus, which is like the homeland, like the central hub, the largest stronghold, the biggest bastion of the Silithid. So it is going to be a pretty dangerous area, and this is not the road I need. We want to go ahead and come over here to this road, because a lot of the areas here in southern Kalimdor are pretty dry and arid, but then we came down here into the Ahn'Qiraj Crater and it was lush and green. But we are going to go ahead and go out of the crater on the western side of it now, where we came in from Tenaris on the eastern side, and we will be back in a dry and arid climate once again. Where I really like this map because of that, where it has Tenaris on one side and Silithus on one side, and you're basically going through the map to get from one to the other, mostly to get from Tenaris to Silithus, because that's how like the leveling journey works. And then you just have like a nice little break where you're in like a very lush, vibrant, primal forest, and then you can climb your way out here into Silithus, which we can see the night sky above us, some obelisks here, and a Cenarian Circle outpost of Valor's Rest, where we actually have a quest to turn in here, so I should probably go ahead and turn this in, where we can see a few different people around here. Leatherwork and supplies, not selling anything too special. Let's go ahead and turn in Wasteland, and then we can go ahead and free the spirits of some druids down here. But before we begin doing a lot of quests here in Silithus, and before I continue talking about Ahn'Qiraj, there are a couple of things that I want to do. So let's go ahead, just ride our wolf through this area of the road, where I don't think it's going to be too dangerous as long as we stay away from one of the hives, which we can see right there. Massive mountain with bugs flying around it and giant like bug parts sticking out of it. And it is a very, very interesting location, and in the classic version of the game, houses very deadly enemies that we need to be careful of. But a lot of the other enemies around here, like that Stone Ash Scorpid and this Sand Skitter, and we saw this Dread Striker and the Dust Stormer, they are a little bit easier. But then we also have to be careful about this group of Twilight Marauders, because all around this map are a bunch of members of the Twilight's Hammer, and they are just doing a lot of deadly things around this area of the world, trying to corrupt the world and bring upon the end time. Which we see the Twilight Hammer playing a larger part in the Cataclysm expansion, so it's kind of fun to just experience all these stories in context to Cataclysm Classic that's going on right now, which I haven't been enjoying too much, but I've also kind of been enjoying it a lot at the same time. It's a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I think I'm just enjoying a nice little nostalgia trip, and I'm going to be done with it pretty soon. But here we can see Cenarian Hold, where this is the main base of operations in Silithus for us, and it is going to be our primary outpost for the rest of this episode, where there is an innkeeper in here, and there are a few quests up above us that we can pick up, and there's a ton of quests in here that we cannot currently pick up, so we're going to have to wait a bit before we can start doing these quests. It looks like some of them are level 50. Okay, actually we might have to be level 59 in order to do these quests. We'll have to maybe explore over here really quickly, where there's a quest right there. There we go. And this is to go to the Horde outpost, I believe. So let's go ahead and pick up this quest from Scout Bloodfist, where we can go to the Horde encampment. And then we have Rank Wind Tamer, where I believe this is the final flight path in Vanilla World of Warcraft that we needed. I might be missing one somewhere that I'm forgetting about, but I think we got them all in the Eastern Kingdoms, and now we have them all here in Kalimdor, which is really, really fun. It feels a little bit like an accomplishment to be able to get all the flight paths, plus it is a nice thing to do, just to be able to fly all around the world and to return to every corner of Azeroth that we have been to, where we have the Alliance flight path up here as well. And there's a commander way over here that may have a quest for us, but it might be only at level 60. Okay, I have just learned something very, very interesting. So here in Silithus, the quests aren't fully implemented yet in phase 4 of Season of Discovery, where I thought they would be implemented because I thought we were playing on like an older patch of the game, but they're not going to be here until, is it like phase 6 or something, where we have the opening of Ahn'Qiraj and we can start doing the quests around here. So I may return to Winterspring, and then I may go ahead and just try to go all around the world and complete a bunch of different quests, and probably just kill a bunch of mobs to get up towards level 60. But I do want to spend some time in Silithus killing some mobs around here, where there are a couple quests in Azshara that we might be able to do, but it might also, we might not be able to do them because we have the quest markers here with Questy kind of marking that we can do these quests that get implemented later on. But we also have the quests over there we can do, so I can go ahead and start with those. But I want to go ahead and do 2 more things in Silithus, so let's get to the other side of Cenarian Hold. And over here we can see a Hive Ashy Stinger, a level 57 elite, and a Swarmer over there, level 58 elite. So we just need to be really, really careful about them. And there doesn't seem to be too many people in this zone actually, which is kind of funny because there isn't too much to do in this zone just yet in the current state of vanilla World of Warcraft. But I'm going to go ahead and leave the road to cut off this direction, where we have the Horde encampment here, and where similar to the PvP towers in the Eastern Plaguelands, we have a PvP event going on in Silithus, where you can go ahead and run around the map and get, is it Silithus? Yes, Silithus, and you can bring it back to your base, and if you get to like 200, you get like a small buff or something, where there's not really too much going on, but we can see at level 60 just turned one in there, and we can go ahead and turn this in, and then we could find and deliver a Silithus. So maybe let's pick up this quest, and let's just see if there's one near us around here, where there is that other person that is turning in a bunch right now. So the ones close by to the base may have already been taken, but this is kind of an interesting quest where you can't ride on a mount when you have Silithus, and then you are flagged for PvP while you have it. So players can come and kill you, and then they could take your Silithus, which is one of the incentives for them to kill you, plus they get like honorable points or honor points from getting an honorable kill if they kill you, assuming you're above the level 52 or whatever when they're level 60. But perhaps I will just continue along this way, or let's continue this road here where we have this entire area all around us that is really cool, and there's a wandering swordsman here. Interesting. I think that is a Season of Discovery thing, but I just love the look of this map and like all the different like crystals around here, and of course the obelisks and whatnot. But the biggest, most important thing in this map is what is coming in front of us, and it is what we have been talking about and will continue talking about in this episode, and it is Ahn'Qiraj, which this is one of the coolest raids in World of Warcraft, where soon we will see that the old god Cthulhu is imprisoned inside of Ahn'Qiraj, and the Silithid are just going haywire all across the world. Oh, there's a Silithus there. Let's keep that in mind, and let's come back this way. But I want to go ahead and just run up here and get a nice view of the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, which should be closed. So let's just go ahead and come around here. I see the gate is open right now, or is there another gate further in that's supposed to be closed? But in Season of Discovery, we will have an event here at the Scarab Wall where we will ring the gong after a bunch of people complete a ton of different quests all around the world related to Jonathan the Revelator right there, and we will be able to gain access to the barrier past the Scarab Wall, which we can currently walk through right now. That's interesting. But here we are at the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, and there's actually not a map on the overworld for Ahn'Qiraj, currently in vanilla World of Warcraft, where there is in future versions of the game, especially in Cataclysm, I believe. But I'm just in, you have to be in like a raid group to go in, but I wonder if it's going to give me that warning. Let's go up here. Oh, we cannot enter until the gates of Ahn'Qiraj have been opened. You're level 50 plus and are in a raid group. So if you're level 50 or higher than 50, you can go ahead and go into the raid, which is kind of interesting, but it is a level 60 raid. And that is the raid that we have been exploring, and we will go ahead and explore the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj soon enough. But let's go ahead and run out here really quickly, because I did see that Silithus, which is intriguing me. And it looks like there's that one horde player that is collecting a bunch of Silithus, and then of course there are some alliance that have done it, but I haven't seen this number go up compared to this number going up by 3 so far. So let's just run this way and see if we can find it. I wonder if I can use Ghost Wolf form while I have the Silithus. That would be interesting. Okay, there's that Silithus. It's definitely a bit far away from the horde camp, but we can go ahead and go for it. Let's go ahead, run in here. I'm actually, why am I nervous? My heart is beating a little bit. Let's run this way. We're flagged for PvP, and we have Silithus, and we can use Ghost Wolf. So I should probably run through, not on the road, because there might be an alliance character on the road right here. But we can see Silithus dust surrounds and burdens you, limiting your speed, and we cannot mount with it, I believe. So let's go ahead. The Snarl in the circle might defend us if, oh, there's another one right there. They might defend us if you get attacked, which might be a nice thing, but let's just hope there's no alliance, and let's hope if there is alliance we don't get attacked, because I don't want to fight alliance until the next episode, hopefully. So let's go ahead. Why am I so nervous? Sometimes I just feel like I get really nervous for no reason while I do like certain things in video games related to PvP especially, but I just need to keep talking to calm myself down. And let's go ahead and cut into the wilderness here, where we are like over halfway to the horde camp. I currently don't see any alliance around us, which is a good thing. This is good for us. We need to ignore all the mobs around here. Hopefully we don't get attacked by anything. I still don't see alliance, and we're close to the horde camp. Okay, we need to ignore the Spitfire right there, level 60 elite. There is a Rockstalker in the camp, which I feel like that's not a really safe thing for this camp to have. Let's go around it right here. We didn't get attacked behind us, and we need to get into this piece of machinery, and we just got the Twilight Marauders are here. Okay, they're just running past the camp. I don't know why that scared me so much, but we got traces of Silithus melee and spell damage dealt increased by 5%, and we can go ahead and turn this in, and I'll go ahead and pick maybe the major healing potions, and we got some experience for doing that, which is fun. So we're now 59% of the way to level 59, which I think I'm going to go ahead and continue my adventures around the road, where I'll go ahead and do a little bit of stuff here in Silithus. We could kill a few monsters, and I can do the quest over here, and then I also need to go back to Marshal's Refuge because I forgot to do something there for this quest, and then I can return back to Northern Kalimdor, continue doing some quests up there, and I'll just try to get into level 59 because I want to try to hit level 60 next episode. But let's go ahead, do some adventures, and continue talking about Ahn'Qiraj. But now that we are in Silithus, and as we explore a bunch of stuff here in Silithus, and then as I said, I'm going to do a few other things around the world, return to Winterspring for a moment, but I want to go ahead and continue talking about Ahn'Qiraj, where earlier we were talking about the lore of this place, and we talked about AQ20, where let's go ahead and talk about AQ40, Temple of Ahn'Qiraj. At the heart of Ahn'Qiraj lies an ancient temple complex. Built in the time before recorded history, it is both a monument to unspeakable gods and a massive breeding ground for the Qiraji army. Since the War of the Shifting Sands ended 1,000 years ago, the twin emperors of the Qiraji Empire have been trapped inside their temple, barely contained behind the magical barrier erected by the bronze dragon Anachronos and the Night Elves. Now that the scepter of the Shifting Sands has been reassembled and the seal has been broken, the way into the inner sanctum of Ahn'Qiraj is open. Beyond the crawling madness of the hives, beneath the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, legions of Qiraju prepare for invasion. They must be stopped at all costs before they can unleash their voracious insectoid armies on Kalimdor once again, and a second war of the Shifting Sands breaks loose. Dark whispers ride on the winds of Silithus desert, an old god stirs in his wretched lair, and the entire world shall soon be the target of his wrath. After thousands of years of slumber, the old god Cthulhu has awakened and is quickly regenerating his power. Once he has reached full potential, nothing will be able to stop him. The dragons that so humbly sacrificed themselves so long ago to imprison Cthulhu are weakened or enslaved in the temple, so the charge of protecting the land falls to other heroes. Heroes must enter Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, challenge Cthulhu's most wicked servants, and slay a god. The road will not be easy, and it is wrought with peril at every turn. Will the heroes turn back now, or face Cthulhu in his mighty lair, and put an end to him once and for all? The Alliance invaded the temple and killed Cthulhu. Their march through the area was described as a path of madness. Some of the soldiers who survived that day escaped with only minor wounds to their bodies, but with damage to their minds. One of the greatest challenges was against the twin emperors Veclor and Vecnalash, where there are, of course, a variety of different bosses here in the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, where we start off with the Prophet Scarum, but then we head into the Hive Undergrounds after the first boss, where there's a really interesting thing going on here as you fight through this dungeon, where you can get special mount drops that only work inside of this dungeon, and you can ride them around, where there's basically 4 temporary rental ones that you can get. And then I think in the future of World of Warcraft, they become permanent and you can kind of just use them whenever you come into Ahn'Qiraj. But then I believe there's a 5th, a very rare drop, a very special color version of these mounts that you can get. And this one used to be permanent, but now they're all permanent as well. And I think this one you might be able to use outside of Ahn'Qiraj, but I'm not 100% sure. But continuing through the raid, we have a variety of different bosses, like the Silithid royalty, which includes Vim, Yaj, and Kree. We have Battle Guard Sartura. We have Fankris the Unyielding. We have Vicidus, which is a very interesting boss, because you have to deal a bunch of frost damage to the boss in order to freeze the boss, and then you have to deal a ton of melee physical attacks, like a quantity of attacks while the boss is frozen. And by doing this, you basically shatter the boss and kill him, which makes this a really interesting boss to solo, because as a Frost Death Knight, which I am actually playing and have played for a very long time, this boss is really easy because I can use a bunch of frost attacks and then use a bunch of melee attacks. However, I was struggling getting the total amount of attacks I needed out on the boss for him to shatter, but I got it in the end. But for different characters, like a hunter, where you don't have access to many different frost attacks, you have to consider some different options, like some special weapons and some special potions you can get from alchemy in order to solo this boss. But then we have Princess Huhuran as well, and then we have the twin emperors, and they are Emperor Veclor and Emperor Vecnalash. And I think these are 2 really interesting characters, because on the very basic surface level, they look like 2 giant night elves basically, and they fight you like 2 giant night elves. But of course they're massive Qiraji enemies that you can fight, and they're the leaders of the Qiraji as well, which is really cool. But I remember when I was young, I was really confused by who these people were, because I thought it was just 2 big night elves attacking you in this raid, when in fact it just uses the night elf model and rigging, and they are very different than night elves. Additionally, Vecnalash is a cool character because the Vecnalash realm is one of the main realms that I played on when I was younger, where it was the 3rd main realm that I kind of played on, where I played more on Aerthor and Mok'Nathal than on Vecnalash. But little is known about the Twin Emperors except the fact that they created several powerful entities to serve as commanders of their armies active in the War of the Shifting Sands. They oversaw the construction of the first Anubis sets in the ever-burning fires beneath Ahn'Qiraj, a task that would take a millennia to complete. 1,000 years ago, the Emperors commanded an assault on Kalimdor, putting General Rajax in charge of unleashing their new soldiers upon the Night Elf Sentinels. Fandral Staghelm was able to counter the Anubists with the aid of the Bronze Dragonflight, a problem the emperors had to deal with. Emperor Veclor focused his efforts on designing a mechanism capable of fighting the ancient worms, but the hard work was futile until his Dark Master's whispers aided him in creating the Obsidian Destroyers. Veclor himself hammering out the first statue and a molten forge beneath the ruins of Ahn'Qiraj. These constructs, along with a single extraordinarily powerful Anubiseth called Osirian the Unscarred, turned the tides, forcing the remaining dragonflights to join in on the war, finally trapping the emperors and their army inside of Ahn'Qiraj behind the Scarab Wall. In preparation for its reemergence in the world, the shadowy master of Ahn'Qiraj commanded Emperor Veclor to create a new obsidian statue superior to all other destroyers. Veclor sought his twin brother's aid in the task, and while Vecnalash used his physical might to craft a grand body of volcanic rock, Veclor fortified the shell with powerful magic. Emperor Veclor named the finished construct Mom. They intended to use it as a colossal weapon, knowing that its strengths would help it survive in the thick of melee as well as magical combat. They observed as their Dark Master infused it with life. He was pleased and surprised to find that the improved Obsidian Destroyer was far more versatile than its earlier counterparts. Emperor Vecnalash gave a gift to Osirian to honor his assault on Grakrond. He bound Osirian's essence to several ancient crystals of distant origin, which would grant him near invulnerability. The legends say that Vecnalash secretly entrusted Osirian with the responsibility of maintaining a watch on General Rajax to ensure the commander would never fail again. Then there's Oriol, the ancient sandworm, who is a being of legendary power. He is rumored to have been created by the old god Cthulhu himself as a mockery of life. And then, of course, the final boss of AQ40 of the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj is Cthulhu, where there is a lot of lore to go over, so let's just go over the basic summary. Cthulhu was the old god of madness and chaos, one of the 4 ancient and powerful creatures who ruled over the world of Azeroth long ago before being defeated and imprisoned by servants of the Titans. Cthulhu created the Qiraji and resided within the city of Ahn'Qiraj and Silithus. It was an unfathomably evil entity whose pervasive thoughts had suffused Azeroth since time immemorial. The malevolent god was entangled so deep in Azeroth's core that its rending could destroy the world soul itself. Years after the Third War, Cthulhu freed itself, and both the Alliance and Horde chose not to wait for the old god to build up its strength. Unified under the might of Kalimdor, the heroes invaded the city kingdom of Ahn'Qiraj, fighting countless Qiraji and Silithid before finally confronting and defeating the malevolent god. Even so, it was unknown whether Azeroth had truly seen the last of Cthulhu. Following the fall of N'Zoth and the destruction of Ny'alotha, Magni Bronzebeard declared that Azeroth was made free from the grasp of the old gods, and Cthulhu was later confirmed to be dead by Xal'atath. Cthulhu served as one of the main antagonists of classic World of Warcraft as the final encounter in the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, where I think in the War Within expansion we actually learn a tiny bit more about Cthulhu and a little bit more about the old gods, which I think might end up being kind of a big revelation, but I won't spoil that for people who want to learn more about that themselves in the War Within, but just something to think about. And as we finish up this video, let's go ahead and just talk a little bit more about Cthulhu before the ordering of Azeroth. Countless millennia ago, the old gods, Cthulhu among them, arrived on Azeroth. There, with the help of the Naraki and Akiri spawn, they established their mighty Black Empire and enslaved the chaotic elementals who had previously been the world's only inhabitants. One day, the godlike titans happened upon Azeroth, vowing to cleanse the planet of the old gods and saving its world soul from the eldritch being's malign influence. The titans crafted the Titan Forge from the planet's crust to destroy the Black Empire. The Titan Forge succeeded in imprisoning the elemental lords and defeating most of the Akir. But after the Titans saw the catastrophic effect that the old god Y'Shaarj's death had on the planet, they ordered their creations to imprison the remaining old gods rather than killing them. After containing N'Zoth, the Titan Forge launched their campaign upon the temple city of Cthulhu, purging swarms of Naraki before successfully imprisoning the old god itself. After the defeat of the old gods, the Titan Forge set to work ordering Azeroth. After installing the Forge of Origination, the Titan Forged Ra and his Anubis Seth servants marched towards Cthulhu's prison, laboring to expand the prison into the Fortress of Ahn'Qiraj. Where I think with that, I am going to go ahead and call this episode good here, where we are really approaching the end of this Let's Play series, as next episode is going to be our final episode in this Let's Play series, where if you look at our experience bar right now, we are pretty close to level 60, and we will hit it next episode. So go ahead and join me next episode as we do that, and as we explore a ton of fun things that I am excited to go over. But I hope you all enjoyed watching this episode, and I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember, as always, to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time in the world of Azeroth. Goodbye.